Seven Ohio deputies walked into a courtroom demanding $3.9 million and an apology from a rapper. They walked out with neither, and a lot more people watching their lemon pound cake video, too. Little Streisand effect there. I'm Bob Mata, criminal defense attorney. That beautiful and brilliant woman is Allie, and my co host. This is Defense Diaries, and we're talking to David Osborne and the anonymous juror. Let's go. Welcome to Defense Diaries. I'm your host, Bob Mata, and as I said, that is my beautiful and brilliant co-host, Allie. What's up, girl?
Hey, babe. Hey, all.
So I'm pretty excited about this.
Yeah, me too. I mean, it for, all the happenings in this small town, it's a pretty important case.
Yeah, I mean, it was a real boon for our freedom of speech in this country. So, it's like you guys will see David's a very modest guy. He's a little uncertain with the fame that's been thrust upon him, but I keep trying to impress upon him, man. I mean, it was a really big case for our freedom of speech in this country, and it very much feels like it's constantly under attack. So to both David, to his client Afroman, and then obviously to the juror who did the right thing back in that jury room, we tip our caps and we're thankful. So I'm super pumped about it, and I think without further ado, we should bring David right on.
Yeah, I'm on.
Hey, there he is. What's up, David? Hello. David Osborne, attorney extraordinaire. How are you, my friend?
Oh, I can't complain. Just finishing up another day, trying to get through the backlog.
Yeah, I think that's something that people don't really realize when you're preparing for trial, and then obviously when you're in trial, everything else falls to the wayside. And other cases that you have that are on your desk, they keep moving forward and they still demand attention. So yeah, there is a lot of catch up. You don't really get to take much of a breath, do you?
Not at all. I mean, as I tell everybody, we pushed everything off, and so now it's cram time to catch up.
No doubt about it. No doubt about it. So like biographically speaking, when did you start practicing law? I was digging around on you a bit. I felt a bit stalkerish, so I didn't want to keep doing it too much. But so, like, tell us about your career. When did you become a lawyer? What did you do before that? All that good stuff.
So, graduated high school. Went down to Kentucky to a small college no one's ever really heard of, Alice Lloyd College. Met my wife, got married, got my 2 degrees down there, went to the University of Georgia, was accepted into their program, and got my PhD in chemistry. And then found out that I was overqualified to teach, and scared to death to go into industry. After you go to to one of the Chemical Society resume writing seminars and you're the youngest guy there, you get a little scared.
Yeah.
And so then John Caldwell, one of our local attorneys, me and him made a bet, which is he writes a letter of recommendation and they accept me, I go to law school. And I had to keep my word and go to law school.
Wow.
And I've been practicing for almost 9 years now.
So what kind of law have you always done? Civil law, or what's your practice areas been?
So I originally came out, I thought I'd do only civil work. And then I got an offer from the Lima Municipal Prosecutor's Office and went up there in 2019 through 2023 and did that, and then came back here and sort of did general practice.
Yeah, and I think that people have a tendency to, especially when a case gets streamed, because most of the time it's murder cases is what the kind of the big streaming, the court TVs and Law and Crime tend to gravitate towards that. And so when you see the cases like Johnny Depp versus Amber Heard, or your case, I think people sometimes forget it's a civil case. It wasn't a criminal case. I'd see all kinds of tweets talking about the prosecutor. And then
I just did it.
you just did it. And it's, it's obviously a plaintiff's attorney because it was a civil suit where they're seeking money for damages, and it's different. Nobody's going to jail as a result of it. So have you handled any criminal stuff in your past or no? Is that not something that you mess with?
No, we do criminal work. We are rather selective on it.
No worries.
Abby, you want to grab the phone? We're getting phone calls up to midnight. It's insane.
Yeah, I believe
And
it.
slammed now. You're out there.
But no,
you're out in these streets, man.
We do criminal defense work. We've done felonies, everything from rape down to speeding tickets. Although I usually tell everybody I hate doing speeding tickets because it takes a good 45 minutes to get a good speeding ticket trial done.
Yep.
But we do whatever's needed. It's easier to say what we don't do. We don't do personal injury, and we don't do Social Security. Everything else is on the table.
So before getting into the trial, and you let us know, and there are things for everyone out there. There are some things that David maybe not be able to discuss. So if I ask a question that he doesn't want to touch on, he'll let us know. But as far as like background into what in all that is holy had the police thinking that Joe was a narcotics trafficker and involved in kidnapping. How does something like that get so frivolously before a judge?
Well, they had a confidential informant who gave them a lot of that information, and that was the basis of it. I know we went through some of that in the depositions, and so there's a lot of stuff contained in the depositions that sort of explains that. But other than what was told in depositions, your guess is as good as mine.
So what was the basis as far as what they claim that this informant told them? Because my understanding is it was like so far fetched, and once they got in the house, contradicted like everything that was said. Can you get into that? What they alleged?
From my understanding, which I haven't reviewed the deposition in a while, and also during the trial, the judge made it abundantly clear we were not going to go into that, so we did not prep a lot on that because the judge made that clear. And what we did get in was very tailored to what we could. But from my understanding from the deposition, there had been a report of a person with a large amount of marijuana. Officers had come together, went there for what they call a knock and talk, talked to this lady. I guess they confronted her. Did you have the marijuana? And she took them to it, or at least told them where it was. And they found a felony level amount of marijuana in her possession. From there, they kind of asked her some questions. They had her go back to the station, did an interview, and the question becomes, where'd this come from? And it's my understanding she said something to the effect of, well, this came from Mr. Foreman. And they started talking about, she also told them about women coming and going out of a dungeon, being put in cages and stuff. And so they kind of put that together and got a search warrant. What was really interesting was the contradictions that you have, because there was one interview with Mr. Newland that the recording failed, so they went in, and Mr. Newland, while he's typing the search warrant, has two other deputies go in, Sergeant Estep and Sean Cooley go in and re-interview her. And what they said was it was kind of interesting, because then she changes her story to them indicating that she has stole this stuff from Mr. Foreman. And so it's kind of interesting as you read the deposition, you kind of see a picture of what happened with the confidential informant, and then you kind of read the warrant again, and you're like, wait a minute.
Right.
Only the good stuff's in here, none of the bad stuff.
Right. I was just going to say, so they learned before they present it to a judge that she says, well, wait a minute, I actually stole this from him. And
well, I mean, that's what you'd be looking for, is consistency in the story. I know she has a prior criminal record, and so there was a lot of stuff. And Mr. Newland, in his deposition, went through a lot of detail about the CI packet and all the stuff they look at, because when they classify you as a CI, they actually have a whole packet. They look at your criminal record. So there's a lot of stuff they would have put together there that
But as far
one
as
would
her
question.
allegations that there were women in cages in the basement and something about, is it valid that she said something about defecating or going to the bathroom in buckets?
That all went into the dungeon part of it.
And there was no
Almost
basement.
nope.
I mean, you would think that as soon as they get in there and they're like, there is no basement, that they
It's
would
just
be like,
the wrong house.
right. But
Yeah.
yet they still keep looking for these hidden rooms that they should now know that their informant was full of shit, but they spend all that time trying to tear apart, the walls, finding a hidden room that doesn't exist.
Well, I think the search warrant also said that the CI was claiming that she was there when secret compartments were built and stuff. I mean, honestly, I almost think the search warrant, some of it reads like a bad part of 50 Shades of Grey. But
I mean, it sounds like a complete fiction. And then I just thought, when you watch the body cam, that they just keep saying, well, she said there's a hidden room behind the clothes. Well, why don't we start with, she said there were women chained in a basement that doesn't exist, but they keep looking everywhere they go for these hidden rooms and hidden rooms. And I'm thinking, you guys look like buffoons.
well, it's
Yeah,
like if you look at the deposition, I asked everybody, so what were you looking for? And it's like every person had something different they were looking for. One person says they're looking for a juvenile. One person says they're looking for narcotics. One's marijuana. One's sex trafficking. I mean, I don't know who read the warrant, but everybody should have been tailored to say, this is what the warrant says. This is what we're looking for. Now, you find something else during it, that's completely different, but you don't really go in looking for sex trafficking and stuff unless it's in the warrant. It's like,
yeah, and I would assume that if there was a kidnapped juvenile or a woman, that there'd be some missing persons report, some victim somewhere who has said something to it. I can see why he's like, it starts out for Afroman like, they should have never been in my house. They were listening to some crackpot describe events that they've got no corroboration for. They don't have a victim. And when they get in there disconnecting the video camera, and they claim that they were going to take video camera as evidence. Did the warrant specify that they could take surveillance equipment or anything like that?
no, it did not. And that was one of the big arguments is that, and which kind of got tossed out with the counterclaims, is they exceeded the warrant. I mean, now
Right.
their claim is that, okay, we disconnected the security camera. If there was kidnapping victims, it'd be on there. Well, that makes sense if you take it as evidence.
And
if you just disconnect it and throw it on the couch,
but
that's
if you're
not
not
evidence.
authorized to take it as evidence, you need to go back and get an updated warrant that allows you, based on my on why is my brain freezing when you see something plain view, on the plain view doctrine, that I saw camera footage, and I believe that there would be, if there was a kidnapping victim in the house, it would have been recorded, and if there's narcotics sales in the house, it would be recorded. Can I take the recording, Your Honor? I mean, if it's not in the warrant, why are you disconnecting it, claiming you're going to take it in the first place?
That became one of the questions. I don't think we ever really got a good answer in depositions on it.
So
Let me ask you a question, babe. So Andrea Burkhart, one of our dear friends, fellow law tuber, she's curious. Is this standard operating procedure in your part of the world, or is this an outlier? What happened
as
here?
far as like getting a warrant on some stuff like that?
It's hard to answer that, honestly, because sometimes there really is not many times that you see a warrant and this is what comes out of it. Most of the time, if nothing's found, nothing happens. The homeowner kind of puts back up the door and kind of lives with the damage.
Yep.
Or sometimes they find something, in which case kind of takes care of everything. So this is an outlier for it. So it's kind of hard to answer that question.
Yeah, well, they mess with the wrong guy. That's evident. So in terms of when Joe makes the call to your office, like, did he just cold call you? Was he looking for a lawyer and he just hit you up and you're like, yeah, come on in, and you sit him down and you talk about the case, or did he know you? Like, how did you guys have the relationship?
Well, I was actually the third attorney on the case. I did not start the case. The case started with Bruce Rivers. He came on first, and where he's not licensed in Ohio, he got admitted, and they had him. He had to get a local attorney. He got Tyler Cantrell from the law offices of Young and Caldwell. Which, when I talked about John Caldwell was part of that law firm, and I had worked there previously. Those two were the first two attorneys on the case. They did a motion for judgment on the pleadings through the first round of decisions by Judge Jerry McBride, and then they also did the counterclaim, and pretty much I took over shortly after the counterclaim. And really, that was one of those where I came on more because and then you'd have to ask Mr. Foreman specifically, but I believe that Joe was looking for someone local who knew everybody.
Yeah.
I mean, even in depositions, you'll see when I talk to Mike Eastep, I say, you know me my whole life. Most of these officers I've known a long time, so I think he was looking for someone who knew them, knew exactly how they would operate, what was going on,
Yep.
and that was something that you didn't have with Mr. Rivers. And
Right.
the other thing was Tyler Cantrell at that time, things were starting to go differently for him. He actually went to the prosecutor's office, and so he became a prosecutor at that time, and he still is one of our assistant prosecutors. So there was a lot of flux going on at that time.
Yeah, I believe it. And so, in terms of trial prep on this, did you end up doing most of the deps?
I did the depositions, yes.
And how many deps did you have to do to prepare for this thing?
We deposed every officer. I think the shortest was Sean Grooms, and I think the longest was Mr. Newland. I know Joe was deposed twice, once by the insurance company for the counterclaim, then once by the plaintiff's attorney, Bob. Robert Klingler, I call him Bob, so that way I don't mess up prosecutor or plaintiff, I just call him Bob.
There you go.
But Bob did his own deposition with him, and he referred to that in the trial some. But I know Mr. Forrest deposed twice, and then we deposed everybody they listed as a witness. The only people we never got to depose was obviously the detective Robinson, who did the count of the money or investigation, and we never deposed D or any of them. So,
Yeah, I mean the deps, that's where you really make your case in this kind of thing. So, like heading into this particular trial, what was your biggest fear? Was it the defamation claims, the invasion of privacy claims, emotional distress angle? Which one did you think was going to be your biggest challenge?
the hard P. That was the one where it's defamation per se. I
Yeah.
mean, and it makes it hard. That was the one that scared me.
Yep. Yep. I can see that.
That it
Big
makes
fan.
it defamation per se when we're talking about the theft, or which are we talking about?
So one of the things would be is you have defamation per se, which is something clearly on its face that would shock the senses. Um, then you have per quid, which was more what I thought Lisa's would fall into because, you know, in its context, you kind of got to know what does lick and low mean? How does this all come together? You have to have some explanation of who it is. And I thought even when you're talking about like the post that called the police department thieves, that would also fall in that because you'd have to know who did the raid. You'd have to know how many people's in the police department. You'd have to have a lot of outside information to know exactly who he's referring to. And
To have an identifiable person as the law would require. Is that's what you're
yeah,
talking
that
about?
would be a good way of putting it. Yes. And so those I was not worried about as much, but the hard P I was because it was very plainly towards him. It was very plainly going to shock you. I mean, and so that was really where I focused a lot of my stuff and what worried me the most.
Yeah, and ultimately, when you kind of get to that aspect of the public figure argument and extending it to sheriff's deputies, which obviously becomes in my estimation, your strongest card. I mean, when did you kind of land on that? Because when you're going through it and you're figuring out how to defend it, you're obviously throwing a bunch of theories in your mind out there, and like, Did you think that that was your strongest argument initially, or how did you land on it?
Well, that's one where I get to say it wasn't me who decided that. That actually was decided very early on the judgment of the pleadings. Judge Jerry McBride found them clearly to be public officials, and so that was already done before I came on the case. So, and it's like as I did the case law research and pulled things together, I was like, he made the right call on that. They
Yeah.
are
Right.
truly public officials.
Yeah.
And I mean, as far as, when we think of like defamation law, well, sticking with defamation law, that when you say it's not, it's got to be a statement of fact, not opinion. You also have satire, which you made a big point of.
Mhm.
And although the judge seemed to think some of this is could be proved as a fact, but when you talk about, you have a rap artist putting it in a song, doing it in such a sa- satirical way that I think no reasonable person would take it as fact. Now we're talking about even Lick 'em Low and the Pound Cake, and um the one with, I think that was Newman, about Newland, that he assaults children by their, uh does whatever he said to their balls and plays with their buttholes right in front of people in broad daylight. Like, there is nothing about that, I think, a reasonable person would ever think was coming across as fact. Did you have were there pretrial motions that sort of argued that, and did the judge come back and be like, no, I think that somebody could find that to be fact?
We had no pretrial motions that really argued what was a fact or what was an opinion. That was more in the jury instructions where we were trying to put together, jury instructions. And there actually was an instruction for exactly, what is a fact, what is an opinion. Um, and that's actually kind of like opinion was something that cannot be proven true or false. And so that's one of the reasons why if you see me go, well, we can we prove that? That's what I was getting at, was trying to fit it into the definition of an opinion.
How
But
shocked were you when, and I'm gonna forget his name, but there were, well, why don't you tell us on that fact and opinion, what were a couple of questions that you asked on cross-examination that shocked you, that the response that the plaintiffs gave you?
Brian Newlands, I mean, I did not expect him to admit or to agree with me that it was Mr. Foreman's opinion
And tell
because,
people specifically as to which assertion that you were asking him about.
well, so when I was doing my cross examination of Detective Brian Newland, one of the questions I had asked is, did he believe that when Mr. Foreman called him a pedophile, that was Mr. Foreman's opinion? And I did not expect him to say uh, yes to that, but he did, and actually, that was where I was planning on walking more questions to try to fit it into the definition. Can you prove it true or false? But when he agreed it was an opinion, it was kind of took me a little bit by surprise. We adapted and moved on, though.
Yeah.
Right.
Uh,
And then you had the same thing happen with the officer who, um the video said, I slept with his wife.
Sergeant
And
Walters.
yeah.
right. And how were you surprised? Tell people about that line of questioning and his response.
Well, if you listen to my question, I'm like, we all know that's not true, correct? And I'd expect him to agree with that. And when he said he didn't know, you had to adapt to it and move on, because that was really what I was going to get at, is that you wouldn't know whether it's true or not. But
He openly admitted he
Mhm.
literally would not say, I don't know that that's not true. And I'm like, what? Okay, well, that's check mark on that, by his own words.
Mhm. A lot of it was kind of surprising that they admitted to some of the things. I had expected a lot more questions I'd have to ask. I prepared for more, but that was one where I I remember one of the first trials I saw. You have a lot of defense attorneys who they're sitting there, they're not listening to the witness, and so it's just like they're going down checking off these questions. And so that's where I was paying attention. Once they said it, I was like, okay, I need to shift gears, move on. I've got what I needed. And so a lot of it was just adapting like that and moving.
And so did you consider those over the top type lyrics? For example, he's playing with children's balls and buttholes right in public, right in front of you, right in day, that that those over the top lyrics made the portrayal so that a reasonable person wouldn't think it was true, even though it's a fact you can prove or disprove. Part of the jury instruction and part of the law is it portrayed to people in a manner by which someone's going to be like, oh yeah, I think that like reasonably accept it as factual, like that the person's trying to portray a fact. Did the were you focused on that? Well, the more outrageous of the lyric, the setting in which he's saying it and how it's being portrayed proves that, this that Afroman was not trying to get someone to think it of as a fact, or that it's nothing that a reasonable person in the public would find to be fact.
So one, I got to correct. It wasn't. We never had any lyrics for Mr. Newland. Mr. Newland was solely on some Facebook or Instagram
Okay.
posts. So it would be like a picture of him, and then
Who was it where I heard a video where he said that somebody plays with children's balls and buttholes right in front of you?
I think that was. I actually think that was Bob referring to that post. Because
Oh,
so when they would put up the posts and publish them to the jury, one of the things you would see is Bob would kind of pick one or two lines that kind of made his point and move on. Um, my thing was to put them in context, because when you read the whole thing, it just becomes so absurd. It can't even be taken seriously.
right. And and
Um,
and and that right there says it's nothing that a reasonable person's going to accept as factual. I mean, you're saying he does this in the light of day right in front of everybody, and it's like, come on now.
well, that was really what I was trying to get out of Miss Grooms when she testified, was her kids knew it was fake. If you have teenagers know that this ain't real, then no reasonable adult person can see it that way.
Yeah, and I don't know who took the picture, and I don't know, because I was shocked to see it was on social media. Somebody got a snapshot of like the jury, and I think it was post closings. All right, and it might have even like dropped after the verdict came out. But when I saw the jury, I'm like, why? And I think it was before the verdict, because I was like, wow, like this, I was surprised because of the apparent age of some of the jurors. I started to worry. I'm like, man, is this case going to resonate with these folks, or is just the pure vulgarity of some of the language going to turn them off so much that they're not going to be able to focus on the law because they're personally offended? I mean, I always worry about that kind of thing. Like we have a channel here, and when we swear on our channel, we just do, but we get some older viewers that are like, wow, they'll leave a reply like, well, we liked your show, but the swearing was just too much for us. So, I mean, you always have to kind of worry about that, which kind of dovetails into the question that I have for you, which when I'm watching your closing, and I loved it, by the way. I like it as a guy who swears pretty frequently. When you decided you took two swings, I think, because when the first thing where you said you asked a ponderable, and then you said fuck yeah, and I'm like, did he just say fuck yeah? And like Allison and I rewound it, and I'm like, you sure did. And then you got into the opinions where you said the opinions are like assholes, everybody has them, and they stink. Did you strategically, were you going into that like trying to in somewhat like maybe get the jurors accustomed to like the normalcy of using foul language? Was it spur of the moment, or did you plan it, I guess, is my question.
So if you watch the video, you'll see I'm right in the closing as Bob's doing his, because I don't know what he's going to say.
Right.
And you're going to have to counter it. And so a lot of it is, I had a couple bullets that I'd already started, because, you start your case in voir dire.
Yeah.
I'd already started my case in voir dire, and that's where I was worried about. You can see I was worried about the hard P. So I start taking the thing that I was called, the worst thing I was called during my election, baby killer, to sort of set everything up for that. And I knew I was going to hit that in closing. I knew I needed to hit some of the songs, but the rest of it was really trying to bounce off of what Bob was saying. Because the one thing I hate about closing is when you get there and you don't listen to what the other side's doing. and you just come up there. It's like I don't think the rebuttal Bob did in his second closing truly took into account what I was saying. It was just more wanting to hit his
Yeah.
points again.
Right. Which isn't a rebuttal closing. You know what I mean? It's kind of like the entire purpose of a rebuttal is to rebut what was just said. But yeah, I like, and obviously, you know, it's your county. Like, I'm not going to ask you to comment on the judge, but I think, especially some of the lawyers that were watching the stream, and there were a lot of us that were very interested in the trial, and a lot of us were shocked by a lot of the things that the judge was doing up there on the bench in terms of rulings, and just some of the inappropriate things that I think he was taking it upon himself to do. Did you feel to a certain extent that you were fighting the judge as well?
So I do want to make it abundantly clear that Judge Jonathan Hine is not one of our local elected judges.
Okay, good.
He is a visiting judge. So our local judge, Brett Spencer, had recused himself early on in the case, and you can understand why. This would have been improper for him. Jerry McBride was appointed, and then his health caused him to have to withdraw, and so Judge Hine was then appointed. We never had any of our local judges really involved in this case.
All right, that's good to know.
So actually, I didn't know what to expect. That was my first time in front of Judge Hine. I had done about 10 minutes of research. I know some people had told me, some of the people I went to school with said, "Hey, do you know who Judge Hine is?" And I was like, "No clue." And they're like, "Just make sure you watch your eyes, cross your T's, be ready to argue your case and be ready." So I took that to heart and kind of did a little extra prep for that.
Well, and for those of you out there who maybe didn't watch the trial super closely, I was shocked. I have never seen how the judge would cut you off and try almost sort of like from openings. He cut you off and he called you out on the sending a message. And gave a curative instruction, even though no one asked for it, in the middle of your opening. And in closing, okay, in closing, the prosecutor kept hammering home how they needed to make a statement. They needed to tell everybody, they needed to tell Foreman that this community is not going to accept this. Send a message, send a message. And I'm going, where's the curative instruction, Your Honor? Where is stopping him? From the jump, did that put you off?
I think if the judge would have let me continue on my opening, he would have understood what I was trying to do. A lot of people thought that this case was about lemon pound cake. That had already been decided. The image was not. We were solely on what was said in posts and that one video, which should never. Yeah, that's a whole nother topic. But that was what it was about. And so I think I wanted the jury to understand we're not talking about their image, because it was, and even online when my son talks about it, he's like, "Well, are they suing over their image?" I'm like, that was done really early. This was now about what he said, the words. And I wanted to try to let the jury know that. And I think that's what, when the judge cut me off, I think if he would have gave me a little more time, he would have seen where I was going, because I wanted them to know that, because I was afraid they're going to focus on this whole idea of using their image, using the video footage, and kind of miss what we were really trying the case about.
But did you notice in the prosecution's closing how much he employed the jurors to send a message?
I did, and I will say that I thought that was. I try to be very nice. I'm still a gentleman. So when I say some things I feel bad about, but it's like when he started talking about God, I was just like, "Oh my God, that is not, you don't really do that."
Yeah, that's on my list. So for everybody out there, I can't remember, was that closing or opening where he said that to the jury?
I remember in closing, but then
Okay,
again,
I think it was in closing as well. And we're going to talk about the juror who is listening backstage. But for anyone out there who doesn't know, in closing, the plaintiff's attorney said, "You guys are chosen by a higher power to be here." I mean, he basically said, "You're chosen by God, and it's you that has to make this decision, and God wants you to make it." Did that floor you?
That surprised me. I mean, how many times you get in law school and the law doesn't follow things like that? I mean, unfortunately, while we all want to be nice people, we're to uphold the law, not to do that. So I felt when he was going that route, I was just like, I don't know what he's getting at, because I think that confuses a lot of issues with it where, we don't have to agree with what Mr. Foreman did. We don't have to find it tasteful, but it's a question of legality, not morals.
Right.
Yeah, and so one of the things I wanted to ask you, because there were just so many things about the trial that were just wild. It was such a wild trial, and ultimately the importance of it was, not overshadowed, but I think that people might have lost a little bit of sight of just how important the decision really was in terms of comedy and satire and what we're allowed to do without fear of reprisal and being sued for defamation, especially when it comes to public figures and our ability to be able to criticize them and satirically kind of hammer them. It was a very, very important case. And in terms of like Joe Foreman coming in when he testified and he had that amazing suit on with the matching sunglasses. I was dying to know. Like the first thing that I really wanted to ask you was, did the judge make any kind of comment, or was that something that had to be discussed in terms of, because I could imagine that we would walk in front of judges where a judge would say, well, I don't find that outfit to be
Appropriate.
appropriate. Did that happen, or did the judge not even blink an eye?
Nobody ever mentioned it.
Wow.
Judge never said anything. Bob never said anything. I mean, it never came up.
I mean, you can't get more American than that.
No.
So I mean, it was just wild, and I loved it. It was such an amazing image to see him in there. When like I turned it on and like there he was, and I'm like, oh my God, this is amazing. It really was just can't miss streaming. It was appointment streaming in my estimation. So in terms of like, are you inundated? I'm sure like we hit you up immediately. We were dying to get you on the show. I mean, have you seen an uptick in business?
Um, yes and no. So my business was already having problems keeping up with it before the trial. Most of what we do is, I mean, we do not maintain a website. I mean, it's one of those, you either know the number to call or someone refers you locally. Most of our work is local. Um, so we've never had a problem with that. We've actually, last year I tried to hire an associate, but the problem is everybody coming out of law school wants to be in the big city, and nobody wants to be out in the country. Um, Everybody tells me they want to be able to get Chinese at 2 o'clock in the morning. I'm like, that's fine. You can do it here. You just got to make sure you got it at 5 and put it in the fridge. Um, but now we've seen an uptake in phone calls, um, and I'm sure it will translate into an uptake in business. But we really didn't need it.
You're
We were
already
doing
busy
really
enough.
well.
Did
Yeah.
you notice, I don't know how active you are on social media, but a Colorado Adams County Sheriff Department had to do a special social media post telling people, because of all the hate calls and emails that they got saying, "Hey, no, we are in Colorado. We are not in Ohio."
My son is in social media, so most of my social media comes from him. I just created an Instagram account a couple days ago so that my son can teach me how to do social media. Other than that, Facebook's all I ever did, because when I was traveling, I would dump all my photos on there so my family could see where I was at.
Right. So, did you know that the Colorado Adams County Sheriff's Department had this huge issue that they were inundated with the hate calls and the emails?
I didn't know until my son sent me the link.
Oh, he did. Okay. We talked about the judge like cutting you off in opening, but obviously it didn't stop there. We had like when Brian Newland was on the stand, the judge sua sponte objected and raised hearsay issues when you asked him about like policies and stuff. Is that can you tell the people out there listening, how normal is it in your experience for a judge to be sua sponte objecting and, raising specific objections that the other side's not doing?
To a certain point, to a certain point, our judges down here do that. To a point, I know I've had Mr. Spencer kind of say, "Mr. Osborne, move it along, get to your point." As you can see, I sometimes get long-winded, so he is very much keep me on task. It does happen, just never to that degree. That was the first time it has happened to that degree.
And I mean, he even asked you, like you were asking about Newland's brother's charges. And
Mhm.
he is interrupting and saying, "How is that relevant?" And you had to explain it to him. And I think he gave you some leeway after that, but he was ready to shut you down even on that issue.
Mhm.
And remind people why that was relevant and what that
Well,
what that questioning was about.
well, the problem I always have is they're arguing reputation. Nobody produced any documents to a concrete loss, so everything would have been a nebulous damage to your reputation. Well, the problem is that your reputation is everything you do, and that's why I ask the questions: does your job duties perform on it? Well, the same problem is that your reputation is also somewhat affected by your family, quite a bit. I mean, my wife's a school teacher, and so everybody's like, "Oh, she must love kids," and so I must love kids by by
Association.
extension. And so it's like if I do something bad, it's going to reflect on her. And so a lot of that was to demonstrate a couple things. One was that yes, well, let's face it, um, everybody would have asked him about his brother.
Right.
So it was one to say, okay, yeah, this has happened before, so this is not new. And the second is to say it does affect his reputation, and the idea that sometimes what your family does create a stain on your reputation, and sometimes it makes your reputation better. It just depends.
I was shocked because he denied even knowing what his brother was charged with, which was it sounds like sending some sort of inappropriate material to juveniles. Is that what it was?
The, I don't remember off the top of my head exactly what it was. I know we had the newspaper article ready for impeachment because that's the thing. All the stuff was in the newspaper. I mean, our local newspaper covers what goes on here pretty well, and so that's where I was kind of surprised because it was all out there. Everybody knew I was going to ask it, so because I had no choice.
Right.
Um, but I know there was a good article on exactly what happened there.
And
Yeah, and one of the things that is interesting is, so you've got a client who really, I think at the point that you started your representation of him, he probably had close to 1 million subs on YouTube, a ton on Instagram, so he was out there. He basically had his own kind of social media empire going on top of his hip hop and rap career. And the challenge of handling a client like that in terms of going into a suit like this, was it challenging, or did you even try to kind of reel him in? Because you'll have those clients that kind of can't help themselves when you've got this pending suit and they just want to keep firing. You know what I mean? Was that like a thing where you didn't really have a take issue with it, or were you telling them like, "Hey, man, it's like I'm trying to win this thing for you, and you're not making it easier for me," or like how did that part of the relationship work out?
Uh, the When you're going to trial like this, unfortunately, you get to know each other very, very well, and me and Joe's got to know each other over the course of this, and that made it a lot different than just showing up like before trial, going, "Okay, you need to do X, Y, and Z, and this is how we're going to do it."
Yep,
By the time we got to that point, we knew each other quite well, so it was a lot easier to communicate with them.
yep,
And so I think that is one of the things you sometimes lose with like a criminal trial, because with a criminal trial you're not always doing all the prep. A lot of your prep is really for officers and how to do technical stuff,
yep,
and you're just prepping your one witness. With a civil trial you're more involved because you want to know his opinion, you want to know what they think of it. I want to ask him, hey, what do you think of this question? And see if he sees the same thing I do, because ultimately I've always had the idea, well, I like to bounce my questions because I may see it one way, but everybody else sees my question as something different. So it was a lot different than you would in a criminal case. We spent a lot of time together, so
Yeah,
it wasn't as bad as you would expect.
that's completely true. And did he sit in on most of the deps? I mean, usually the plaintiffs show up, depending.
Well, that's interesting. Not all the plaintiffs were in all the depositions, but Mr. Foreman was present for every deposition,
I figured he would be. I figured
and
he would be.
it's like he even arranged his schedule, because I told him, okay, you need to be ready for this time, you need to be ready here for the trial, and so he had actually arranged his schedule so all that was clear so that we could focus on this.
Yeah.
Yeah, and one thing that you did good with each of the witnesses was letting the jury know, all right, we've checked off every other thing that Joe said that could be the backbone of whatever they're seeking, and we're left with just the theft, or we're left with just, whatever it was. And you had, I forget which witness is the dipshit receding hairline witness.
That was Officer Justin Cooley.
Okay, so that plaintiff. And he kept going on about that really his issue was about how the department handled it.
Mhm.
So it sounded to me like they were pushing the sheriff to press charges against Joe. And when they wouldn't, that's what really got everybody so upset. That's why he left his job, not because of what Joe did, but how the sheriff handled it. Are you aware of what was going on in the background about, were they pressuring the sheriff to press charges, and is that really what triggered everything?
I'll be honest, I don't know about that part of the background, honestly.
But it seemed
Uh,
like that's what he was alluding to in his testimony anyway. Would you?
I don't necessarily. I would say that would surprise me, because I don't know of any time they were pressing to have charges filed. Because after the search warrant, I mean,
I mean
the search
charges
itself
for the
discredited your CI.
right. No, I didn't mean charges for the criminal stuff related to that. I meant for the harassing, something to do with why him making the post and him saying things online. Like I got the sense that they were trying to get the sheriff to press some sort of harassment charge for all of that,
Mhm.
and that they got angry when he didn't. But you
Well, I know I kept nailing down the fact that they keep talking about these phone calls and death threats, and I'm like, well, okay, you're calling the police department, you're making a death threat to an officer, that is a crime, and so I think they were frustrated that that was not fleshed out more, and because my thought had been what you would have done is investigate and trace a call, prosecute a person, one or two, and shut it down. So I think that was what they were upset about,
alluding
because it
to?
seemed like almost nothing was done there.
Okay.
But
And
then
then
again, I'm not sure.
oh, right, and then we had this, what might be surprising to everyone if you didn't follow the whole trial, was that the Lick 'em Low Lisa video, that long video that they played at the end, and I'm sure many of you have seen out there, where this actress is chowing down on a woman, and there's this whole
Wow.
this this whole video where it's depicting Afroman having sex with her, all of this. That was not part of the lawsuit because it was done only days before. And you raised argument over argument objecting to all of that because the law had changed. Now, I
Mhm.
felt like that was going to be a huge winnable appellate issue for you had there been a negative verdict. But can you tell people about the change in law and why those things shouldn't have been in?
So if you look at when it was originally filed, the lawsuit, the ACLU came on and they put on a good emeritus brief, and they were talking about strategic lawsuits, the idea of shutting down free speech. And so at the time the lawsuit was filed, Ohio had no such thing. And then in April of 2025, that law went into effect. So anything after April 2025 would have been subject to the new anti-SLAPP laws, which had a whole different procedure to it. And the nice thing is you could have a motion for summary judgment or such, and you didn't go to a trial if it's denied. You go straight to the Court of Appeals, and the Court of Appeals decides, is it even able to go to a trial? So you had a lot more processes. You had a expedited way to shut things down. And of course, it's in the statute. If you prevail in an anti-slap thing, you automatically get your attorney fees. You don't have to go do countersuits or any of that stuff. So it was a huge change for that. And also, the interesting thing about the anti-slap is that the legislature even put in there the purpose of it. Usually they don't put the purpose, but it is a purpose, and that's where in my motion in limine I cite that. And as you read it, it's almost as if the state of Ohio is like, we're going to give you even more ability for freedom of speech.
And what was the purpose that they stated in this when they passed the statute?
I'm going to have to look up. I don't know
Okay.
the word for word off the top of my head.
Okay, but generally it was demonstrating that they're giving more protections to freedom of speech in
I
general.
want to say they said something to the effect it wasn't just immunity from lawsuit, but it was even more immunity. So it would tend to extend it some on that.
And it
But
almost seems like if you had this big brief written by, would you say the who wrote the brief? Sorry.
well, I wrote the brief on it.
No, I mean the amicus brief.
Oh, that was written by the ACLU.
The ACLU, that your state was like, yeah, we need to respond to this, and then this anti-slap statute comes in, or was that something in the works before? Do you know one way or the other?
It's my understanding it was in the works before. It
Okay.
just, I do believe that, from my understanding, talking to another attorney, that this was probably the second type of lawsuit like this. So I'm sure that these lawsuits played some part in it, but they were not the driving force of it.
But it got it maybe expedited. And then I know one thing that you really were surprised by. Can you tell people about what a Rule 50 motion is and what you expected to happen and how that changed things?
Well, I motioned for a directed verdict, which any civil attorney should do at the end of the plaintiff's case, and I had expected that I would prevail there on a couple claims, and I specifically thought that we would kick out all the what I would call the odd ones, Sean Cooley, Justin Cooley, Mikey Stepp, Sean Grims, all of them would be kicked out. I kind of figured Randy would be kicked out too. And I figured at that point we would move forward on only two of them.
And those two being the Lick 'em Low Lisa video
and Mr. Newland, yes.
and the Newland post that, again, I thought screamed, this is being portrayed as satire. And that's where he said he does this to children right in front of people, right in front of your eyes, right in broad daylight. Those two?
Basically, those two plaintiffs. And when he basically denied it, well, I mean, he had asked us to brief it. We had done briefs that night, and then turned around. I filed mine the next morning for the record. And so it was like, and then he's like, well, I'll give you your answer in the morning. And he was like, denied them all. Let's go forward. And that was not what I expected at all.
Yeah. And as far as it kind of is like a takeaway from this trial, and and I've talked to you a couple times, obviously off camera, and you're pretty humble about just kind of what I think that the after effect of this particular trial is and how important it was. But in terms of like historically, I don't know if everybody's aware that artists and comedians historically have always been able to kind of be that group that would have free reign in terms of being able to speak freely about whether it be politicians or any kind of public official without any kind of recourse. And we need that. It really is a bastion of free speech to be able to do that because, in countries that don't have the type of freedoms that we do, you can get beheaded for saying things that are going against public officials. So, I mean, in your view, what is the single most important takeaway or legal principle that this verdict establishes moving forward?
If anything, the most important thing of this verdict is we're starting to outline, the real question is when you look at criticism of public officials, what is too far, what's too little? And what we're doing is we're just kind of trying to define those. And this kind of helps us define that, especially in a time where you turn around and everybody's critical of everybody.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so it isn't kind of important to understand, okay, where's the line, and this has given us an idea on that.
Yeah. And I
which is
mean,
important.
it's hugely important in a world in which we basically can all communicate with each other and about each other, and the world can see it with social media. I mean, when you live in such a different world, whereas you almost have access to anybody, if you put your mind to it, I think it's absolutely critical in terms of starting to carve out, what's too much, and like what is that limit that you can push without going too far. So, I think you're absolutely right. I think this carved out a pretty nice delineated line that you can take it pretty far. I mean, you can go out there, you can put it out there, and I mean, at the end of the day, do you think if they had just paid for the damn door, we would even have been here?
I- Why? So one of the things I would see about it is I ran for political office. People are very critical, and it's one of those things where why didn't they just move on? I
Right.
mean, I was not. It was not. I was not telling a story when I said I had a lady call me a baby killer because I was a Democrat.
Right.
As I told my wife, I got upset, and then she's like, "Well, just move on." I'm like, "Okay."
Yeah, I
I
mean,
said,
you had, in this case, you had them, making it like the world was seeing them as whiny baby brats because they were letting this get to them. And you have, for example, the theft thing. I mean, that to me was a no-brainer. I mean, two things. He said he had $5,000 in his jacket, and then they collected 4,000. So there alone was his ability to think they may have stolen something. But their own numbers were wrong, and it was only reasonable for him to assume that they stole from him, especially given the fact that they turned off the cameras. So everyone's like, what are you people whining about? Like just whining. And I was surprised that the judge didn't take all those counts and say, all right, well, as a matter of law, they did not establish that he, meaning your client, had any reason to know that that was false. That he almost had every reason to think that that was true. And
"Well,
I
he
kind of
said." That's what I never understood about Bob because Bob kept going on this idea he left the search warrant. Mr. Newland left the search warrant returned, but it was never amended. So even the court documents show that more money was taken than what was returned. And well, how many times are we told, okay, if you screw something up, put in your amended motion or amended thing, clean it up? It just seemed odd they didn't do that
right.
because, or lazy more than anything else. Because they're less nefarious, more more laziness on that.
I mean, but the one thing that's got everybody sort of up in arms, and I'm shocked, so I'm dying to ask you this. The judge's order where he says that the parties have to split the costs. Was that something that was ever discussed in court beforehand? Were you expecting it? And is this just like filing fees costs, or are they grouping in deposition fees or something outrageous?
No, each party had to bear their own attorney costs. Each party had to bear their deposition costs. Those were all costs that they had to bear. It's my understanding this would just pertain to court costs, and this is the now in divorce cases I see it all the time. You split it between the parties. This is the first time I've ever seen this, and actually I'm still researching it to learn more about it because I've
Yep.
never seen it before.
Because the statute, and we looked at your Ohio statute or your civil rules of civil procedure, specifically says that costs are to go to the prevailing party, which would be your client in this case, unless the judge orders otherwise. But I mean, I didn't look at it, but beyond that, but his wording in that order. And for those of you that don't know, I'll just read it here because babe, you sent it to me. I mean, the wording that he gives is just it's so surprising that that's where he's going with it. He says that whoop, where am I?
He gone.
Wait, me or him?
No, it's just the
Oh,
document.
me.
Whatever you
Oh,
will.
so that based upon the relative merits of the case and the justability of the claims, costs are divided one half to plaintiff and one half to defendant Foreman. So what kind of statement is he making there with those? Because it's supposed to go to the prevailing party. What do you take of that language?
Well, the rule does allow the judge to to do something different, and that's why I'm still researching it because, like I said, I've never seen it before, so I need to research that and see if there's ever been case law on it, if there's a test the judge is supposed to go through.
Right.
That's what I'm still looking at because it was a surprise to me.
But it sounds like your understanding is that would be the whatever couple of $100 that a plaintiff has to pay when they file a complaint, and that
Well, a couple $100 to file the complaint. The question becomes the cost to the jury, the cost of everything. So it's more than just the filing fee. It would be the entire cost of the case.
so it would include the cost for that the county pays for a jury.
Hmm.
Wow.
Wow, that is shocking to
Yeah,
me.
that is
I've
shocking.
never ever seen anything like that. I've
And
seen
it's
it
not.
be service fees, the cost of service, the cost of, the filing
Filing.
fees. Right, but not it would be very unusual to include deposition fees, which it sounds like you're saying that's
No,
not included. It
no, those were
obvious
not paid through the court. Those were paid privately. Each party had to pay for their own cost of the deposition and the transcript and video recording and everything.
Man.
This would be.
what kind of fees do you have any idea what the how much this number could be?
Well, I know usually when you file a civil case in our court, it's a $300 filing fee. The jury deposit is $600, and they bill against that, and you get the excess from that.
Okay, so would each plaintiff have had to pay 300, or would be three, but since they were like all filed together in the same complaint, it's one filing fee.
Yes, and that's usually why we get to it where I tell everybody it's the same for one claim or 70 claims,
So
Yeah.
we're talking 900
relatively.
bucks at the end of the day.
That would have been to start the case, and then of course there would be costs on top of that.
And those costs do you know what type of cost
Um,
that would cover?
you would have certified mail costs, service costs. I mean, I sent subpoenas and had them delivered by the sheriff's department. There's costs for that. Every time you file something, there's a cost for that. Um,
So
but
is there a procedure in place where you guys are supposed to tally up your costs and submit them to the judge? Has that been discussed at all?
that would only be if we were working on attorney fees and stuff, but that would not be in this case.
Man, that's great. Like the prevailing party having to fork over cash is crazy to me. I just don't even get it. Do
That's
you
why I'm
think,
researching it.
oh man, it's nuts. Do you like I've heard rumblings that Bob's talking about appealing. Have you heard anything about potential appeal?
Bob had filed, had requested, sent an email to the clerk of courts, basically requesting like information about jury selection and stuff. They had filed that email as part of the file. Our court does it when you request, like I'll eventually request a copy of all the video footage of the court and everything, and so you have to put in a motion, and they put it as part of the file so you can see what the attorneys are getting. It's not uncommon for us, you've been 2 or 3 years, you want to go back here what the original was, you would file for that hearing so you can listen to it and review. So they filed that as part of the case, and people have taken it because being that it would appear that where he's talking about the jury, he's called the jurors, it would appear that he's trying to set up something to nullify the jury is what the guess would be, but it's too soon to tell that because he still has to file the correct paperwork. And that's where Ethan and I put out a statement to that effect. No appeal is done until you file the correct paperwork.
And he's got
And
30 days from the judgment date to do that, I'm
mhm,
assuming. And
Yeah.
you mentioned the calling of jurors, and we're going to get to that with our anonymous juror any minute now. But the plaintiff's attorney has been calling multiple jurors, and they're not, and jurors are feeling put off by this. Is that your understanding?
that is my understanding. I've had a couple call my office, ask me, do they have to talk to him? I mean, there's one thing to run into your jurors, at Walmart or McDonald's and, chat a little bit.
Yep.
Hell, I've had defendants, you run into them, and, when I was a prosecutor, I'd run into them and they'd want to talk about their case. They'd want to talk about it.
Yeah.
So that's not uncommon, but it's one of those things as a small community. you know, most of our places close at 8 o'clock.
Yeah.
McDonald's is the only place that stays open. Walmart closes. We're very much the country at a certain time. Everybody goes to sleep. And so it seems odd to be calling people at certain hours of the night.
Well, and before we came on, when we were talking, you initially setting this live up, and you were talking about, you were going to be back at your house, and that because we had moved it back an hour, and you were talking about, you might be on your front porch with your cow pasture behind you, and I was really rooting for that because I wanted nothing more than to have you on your front porch with just this lovely cow pasture with cows out there grazing and mooing. I just thought it
It's not that beautiful. Trust me. It's nothing but mud.
hey, in my mind it is, man.
Right.
In my mind it's picturesque as you can get. Yeah, I think it's man, it's been an amazing run for you. I'm really happy. I mean, the kids, I mean, are your kids teenagers? They must be just losing their minds over this thing.
I just have the one son, and he's getting ready to graduate college, and so
Yeah.
his thing is, Dad, how can you not be on social media? How can you not see this? I'm like, what do I need to be on social media for?
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, Nick Starro, who is also a creator and very well respected, says despite
And
the
lawyer.
resemblance, what is it?
And a lawyer.
And a lawyer, sorry. Yes. Despite the resemblance in size and beard, me and Mr. Osborne are not related. He might have Scandinavian DNA, but most of Europe has because of, well, my ancestors. Any Scandinavian in you?
According to the family tree that one of my cousins did, I think we trace back to the Normandy in France. So
All right.
I don't
All right.
think it's Scandinavian by my understanding, but it could be.
Okay. Well, Allie from Tennessee says, "Give Afroman my love. Saw him live at a fraternity house in 2004 or 5 at Old Miss. It was a blast." But Ain't So Jane Plain has a question for you. If I can ask, I think I saw a tear running down Afroman's face. How was that moment for you hearing the verdict? Great question, Ain't So Plain, Jane.
Well, that was a tear rolling down Mr. Foreman's cheek, and we can understand that because no matter which side you're on, hearing that verdict is going to have an effect on you.
Yep.
From my side, if you want to see, just watch the video. You see why we're all standing there, because we're still trying the process. I mean, I'm standing there. The judge walks into the chambers, and I'm still trying to process it because on all counts was very good. Usually, you don't have that with that many defamation clients at once.
I mean, it's a profound verdict, man. Like there's no underselling it. It's like it's a big deal, and it's like I said, you're incredibly humble about it. But the bottom line is, this was less about the money. I'm sure if I were to ask Mr. Foreman, he'd disagree with me, but I think he'd also agree with me on the importance of the case, because I don't think it was lost on him. Like there was no part of me seeing him kind of post verdict where he was espousing, that it was a victory for America. It was a victory for our freedom of speech rights. And it was, it was every bit of that, because, when you kind of dig into it and figure out, what we can and can't say in this country. I mean, freedom of speech, it's the First Amendment for a reason, because it's that important to the backbone of this country. So I salute you. I think you did a wonderful job.
Yep.
On top of that, it was fabulous to watch because it was incredibly entertaining. And man, I really salute you, and you really did a wonderful job.
And then lastly, let me read Andrea Burkhart's comment. She is also a lawyer, very well respected, and a creator. And she says, "Thank you for the great interview. As a small town lawyer myself, things can be wild, but this was a different level." And
well, I will say to her, the one thing I've said to a couple people with small town attorneys, John always told me, and I think it applies in this case, because John Caldwell always told me I need to learn to practice law in a small town. He said small town attorneys can practice in the city, but you can't do it from the big city to the small town, it just does not resonate. And I think if you think about that, I think a lot of your small attorneys, as they watch it, you can sort of see how Bob was having problems with taking the city mentality and applying it
Yep.
to
Yeah,
people that just don't think like that.
and I told you this off air, but I was shocked at how well I feel like I would have been just like with the judge and the way he was treating you and the things that he was saying, and he making comments to the juries like, well, when a lawyer makes a mistake, I've got to step in and tell you guys the right way, and cutting you off and objecting, and that I would have probably been losing my shit. And you went with it, you flowed with it, you let it bounce off of you, and you adjusted and moved on. And I thought you did an amazing job in that regard, given how challenging that judge was.
Well, I mean, that was sort of the choice. You could either sit there and say, okay, well, maybe he's saying I'm right and I'm stupid and I just quit, or you just keep doing the best job you can and
Roll with the punches, baby. You were
Pretty
rolling
much.
with the punches, man. There's no doubt, because that thing that you're talking about, like, it does work that way, where a small town lawyer can go to a big city, because I mean, you're just going to get swallowed up there. But when you're doing it the other way, and Omaha's not necessarily a small town, but in comparison to Chicago, when we tried that case out there, they hated us, and we weren't from the city. We were actually like 45 miles west. We live around more cornfields than there are in Omaha, but they didn't know that when we came in. They viewed us as big city attorneys, and they hated us, and they felt like we couldn't relate to them. And that was the way that the kind of media pushed us. So, yeah, I mean, there's a lot of truth in what you're saying about that,
For sure.
because, and it's just the folks, it's the jurors that you really need to be able to resonate with at the end of the day. And, I think there's that disconnect.
Right. And speaking of the jurors, so we're gonna bring our anonymous juror in, but and the jurors, she's staying anonymous because of the fear of backlash. Now, how reasonable do you think that fear is, given your community and the plaintiffs involved?
I can understand it. I myself am not too worried about it myself, although I am still driving the speed limit. So, but I'll be honest, that's been a problem for years.
Old Leadfoot. There's old Leadfoot Osborne again.
There is a reason why I have cruise control now.
But you can understand that why there is a need for anonymity in this situation.
There is a lot of worry about it. I mean, it is one of those where I can understand the worry about it. I mean, if I was in a different position, I might worry similarly. But well, given my personality, if they want to fight, bring it on. We'll do it.
Let's go. Let's rumble. I love it.
I mean, that's our firm has never backed down from a fight, and God knows I should be backing down for some fights that I do. But I can understand her worry. Myself, I'm not worried about myself, but I can understand how some people would be.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like these police are not above something retaliatory with the way all of this has played out.
Yeah, well, I would hope not. That we are at a time where the community needs to heal. We need to move forward. We need to change things and just heal. And retaliation is not going to do anything but make it worse, because. And that's where I'm hoping it doesn't happen, and I hope we're all just worried for nothing, because ultimately that's not going to help us rebuild as a community.
Right.
Yeah, and frankly, the eyes of the world being on the case helps with that. You know what I mean? It's like that would be it would be a bad move, I think, for any kind of retaliation of any kind of note, because
As this lawsuit was a bad move, but
right, we'd be all over it.
Well, I mean, this lawsuit was a perfect example of why you sat down and you explained to your client that once you file a lawsuit, it takes on a life of its own.
Yep.
And you can lose control, and sometimes it's better to let sleeping dogs lie. I mean, there's so many times you talk to your client and you're like, do you really want to kick this rock?
Yeah.
And sometimes they say, no, it's not worth the cost. Sometimes they don't. And really, sometimes that's what you're trying to do, is just trying to get them to calm down and understand.
So actually, before I bring the juror on, I just want to ask you, when your client is on the stand, how nervous were you? What were you thinking with some of the answers? Was that like were you holding your breath during the whole examination, or what were you feeling?
By the third question, I felt better because the key thing with any witness is, I mean, we have the same problem with law enforcement. You got to have control of the witness, and he called him as if on cross, so he had to maintain control. Yeah, you saw how Joe. I mean, we all know how Joe
Joe
is. We know his
controlled that.
personality.
Yeah.
And that was one where if he couldn't maintain control of him, then the witness takes over and you kind of get muddied in the waters. And that seems to be what happened with Bob. And so
That is definitely what happened.
when you start seeing those questions go to where he's losing control, usually what you would expect is him to have an exit strategy, get the witness off the stand before the witness puts his own message out there. And that was, once I saw that wasn't happening, I was feeling better because it was like, you're just putting my witness on the stand.
Yeah, thank you
Right.
very much, sir. Appreciate you. Yeah, because like when I was watching it, I'm thinking to myself, you know, in a case like that, if you're plaintiff's counsel, you know, and most of the time in civil cases, you're taking things on a contingency basis. You know, you're looking at it, you're like, oh, all right, Foreman's got some money. There's a deep pocket there. You know, I'm going to fire this suit. I'm curious as to whether that was a contingent fee agreement. Because if it was, and he's going to try to double down by appealing it, it just seems like folly to me. Like just, you know, lick your wounds, call it a day. And
See, that's what I don't understand about the idea of appealing. You can't untestify. Everybody's under oath. I mean,
Exactly.
Brian's testified it's an opinion. How do you clean that up? I mean,
No, I don't.
What it is.
I don't think that you can. That's why they're coming after the jury as hard as they are, and I don't know what they think they're gonna get.
to what end? For us to have another trial where we just ask the same questions, and if you don't give the answer, we impeach you with your previous testimony.
Right. Exactly.
So what do you think? What do you think the likelihood of appeal is? And if there is an appeal, will you be representing him?
Well, I do have a standing arrangement with all my clients where if I keep your case to the end, and there's one case where I think we're all the way up to the Sixth Circuit Court of Appeals, and I've been with it all the way. Mainly because, as I tell my clients, I don't want you to have to get another attorney, them come up to speed. I've already got the stuff in my head. It's a lot easier to keep going than it is to pass it off to someone else. Now, that doesn't mean I hate appeals work. I really do. But that doesn't mean I won't bring in someone to help me.
Right.
But no, if this is appealed, we intend to stay with it for our clients.
All right. So I'm going to bring Anonymous on. And I know you said that you felt like the jurors already did their job and you don't have any, you don't want to question the juror further. But let's see if Anonymous has any questions for you before we go. Welcome, Anonymous.
Hello.
Hello.
So you've had an opportunity to listen backstage. I just want to give you the chance in case you've got anything that you want to ask of David before we send him backstage. Go at it.
Yes, the beard is real, in case you're wondering.
That was it.
There you go.
I know it. Everybody else that.
See, he let it right off the hook.
And then, David, is there anything else that you want to say about the trial, about the meaning of the verdict, about your feelings at all that you haven't said?
Just that I'm glad it's over with.
Hear, hear.
I mean, you get to the end of the trial and you're just glad it's over with.
Yeah, truth.
All right. Well,
Truth.
thank you so much for joining us. I'll send you backstage, but you can leave if you want. And if something comes up that you want to come back on, we can pull you back on. But if you're not there, we know that
We had better shit to do.
Right, you have gone for the day.
You did an amazing job. America salutes you. I salute you. As a fellow attorney, I just admire your work, and I thought you did a great thing for the American citizen. So well done.
Well, thank you guys. All I ever wanted to do is do my best for my client and represent him, which was my job. So,
well, you did a damn good job of it.
well, thank you.
Thank you very much. We
David
appreciate you.
Osborne, give him a round of applause as he leaves. Thank you, David. We appreciate your time, brother.
Thank you. You guys take care.
All right.
too. All right, Anonymous. Anonymous, we have so many questions for you.
I'll do my best.
Yeah, it was exciting. We were setting this up. So, like we had gotten David to agree to come on the show. And like same day, we realized that we had like a mutual acquaintance slash friend. And we were just like, wow, that's amazing. So as people can hear, you've decided that we're not going to obviously show your image, but you weren't as concerned so much anymore about disguising your voice. So just so people understand that, because originally I think there was some concern from the
My
family.
family had concerns. I didn't. Not, I mean,
Yeah,
I
I
don't
mean, there's a
think
lot
any
of
of those cops are bad guys that anyone would need to fear their lives over. Not
Yeah,
that I picked up anyway.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. All right, so let's start digging in, because like David was saying, it's usually the same thing. Like Allie and I, after a trial, might like hang around the courthouse, hoping to run into a juror afterwards, win or lose. We always like to get feedback. Was it there's something? Did I annoy the shit out of you? Did Allie annoy you? Did we ask too many questions? Did we not ask a question? All that kind of stuff. And like David was saying, like I've run into jurors at the market, where I'm like,
Yeah.
they're like, hey, aren't you that lawyer that was on that trial? And I've taken that opportunity to talk to him. So I love, in such an important case, because you are an American hero. Like the jury that came back with this verdict, and I don't know if you guys realize it, which is going to be my first question. Did you guys understand kind of the weight of this trial beyond it just being like a defamation lawsuit? Like, when did you guys start to realize as a collective that this was a really kind of big time important trial?
We had no idea until after the trial,
Wow.
whenever I got back home and saw that how viral it had gone. And my daughter said that did not happen until we were in deliberations, is when it really blew up.
Wow.
We didn't have a clue.
That's
So-
amazing. So you guys really you followed directions. You stayed off
We
social
did.
media.
We
That's
were serving our role and we followed the law to a T.
wow. That's well done. Good job. I mean, I always wonder that, like when we're streaming trials and it's a high publicity trial, and the world is watching, and 20 different law tubers are out there following it, and all kinds of people are talking about it. Like, I'm always like, do you really think that they're not just slipping on their phone for a minute just to check it out? So I applaud you.
No,
Thank you for
no, I
doing
think,
that.
I
It's
think
it's
we
such
all did really well. As far as what, we talked about with each other. I mean, we all followed the law. We followed the instructions of the judge. And anything we were unclear on, we asked.
So let me ask you, when you're in there for jury selection and they're asking you guys the questions, is that when you learn that Afroman is the defendant, or do you not even know that by what they're asking at jury questions?
He was sitting in there.
Oh yeah, duh.
Did you know who he was, though? Were you?
Yeah, well, I had seen him, at like town events or whatever, but I'd never talked to him. No, I mean, and they asked us, about if we knew his songs, the Because I Got High or whatever, and I don't
Mhm.
think there was a juror that didn't know that song. The
Right.
I
Because
mean, it's a pretty great song.
Pretty great song.
It's a pretty great song. It's been around for a while too.
Yeah.
20 plus years.
So what kind of questions did they ask you about during how much did you learn, I guess, during just the jury selection process with the questions they were asking you about what this all involved, and uh like and how did they what kind of questions did they ask you about what you knew, what you didn't know, and in that kind of
Just
vein?
how much we took in news and yeah, a lot of, I don't even remember really.
So nothing specific about, did you see a music video or?
No, I don't think they I don't think they said anything about that. I don't know. They didn't ask. I was just floored at how it all worked. I had no idea. Like when we went in and we were the ones sitting in the jury box, I had no idea that that meant that, we were at the front of the line or there was a back, just from, I guess, our surveys or whatever. I didn't know how any of it worked.
Was Afroman wearing the American flag suit during jury selection, or was that just showed up at trials?
I honestly don't recall.
You can't recall the first time you saw that get up and what you thought?
No, I was so nervous. Like the whole process was just very nerve-wracking.
Well,
And
hey,
uncomfortable.
let me go back. So is this your first time serving as a juror?
Yes.
All right. So when you get the notice, are you like the average American who's like, oh God, I got a jury notice? You start calling your friends and you call your husband. You're like, oh, they're trying to get me for it. Because most people kind of dread it, because it takes you
Yeah.
out of your life. You don't even know what you're going in for. You don't know if it's civil. You don't know if it's criminal. So you're just going to the courthouse and you're going to find out when you're there. So were you looking forward to it or were you kind of ruining it going in?
No, I was just sort of scared into going in because I had skipped it twice, and then there was a new sheriff, and he sent me a stern letter, and I just felt like I had to go.
Yeah. I mean, that's a thing. So I'm going to put you in you were ruining it. Like you were not looking forward to it. I'm going to put you in that camp and then coming out of it. And I'm doing this because I think it's important for citizens, because in my estimation, it's the most important civic duty that we have. It's what makes our system great. And the bottom line is that for the rest of your life, you're going to have an amazing story to tell people. Like
It's exciting now, but it wasn't at the time.
I think what Bob's getting at, and think of it like when you're after deliberations, but before you even know that the whole country's been watching and what a viral sensation it turned into. Did you, even though you rooted at first, did you feel like I'm doing my civic duty, and it was an important role that you were able to accomplish there?
I think it's very important. And I just felt like I was, doing my civic duty, I guess,
Yeah, it's true. I mean, it's such an important civic, like people that I've talked to that have served on juries who are not looking forward to it, especially if it's a lengthy trial and it really, impedes on your life. And, but every person I've ever talked to that served on a jury found it to be incredibly worthwhile because there's really nothing else that you do in the rest of your life that's like it, because there's no other thing that's like jury duty,
No, definitely not. It was unusual and sometimes uncomfortable, but and seeing that evidence in a courtroom setting was uncomfortable, but I took my role very seriously and stayed focused on the evidence.
So let's talk. Let's jump there real quick since you raised it. So I'm assuming the hardest to watch was the 13-minute Lick 'em Low Lisa video. Is that fair to
Yes.
say?
Yes.
How were you feeling when that was on the screen?
Felt embarrassed. I don't, it was uncomfortable. I didn't want to look at anybody. I just wanted to put my head down. It was uncomfortable.
Now, did they expose you to the language that the lawyers were going to use during jury questioning, or were you shocked come opening when the lawyers are dropping all sorts of words?
I tell you, I was shocked. When that lawyer opened up with, "You're going to hear a lot of pussy eating, pussy licking, pussy eating, blah, blah, blah." I mean, I just wanted the floor to open up and swallow me.
Yeah, it's
He didn't seem like he was comfortable saying those words either.
I mean, for lawyers, it's hard because we typically aren't allowed to use foul language in a courtroom, and it's it's an uncomfortable feeling for everybody involved, including the attorneys, because
Yes,
we go into it and yeah, I could you're feeling probably secondhand embarrassment for the
yes.
people that it was about. You're feeling embarrassed. It's kind of like watching a movie that has a sex scene with
We
your
were
your
watching
kid.
pornography as a group in a courtroom. It
Right.
was wild.
It is wild. It was I mean, that's the one thing. You definitely didn't get a boring case.
I,
Yeah.
I don't care how stern a letter he sends. I'm not going back.
You're like, I've done my service.
Nope. I don't want to do again.
Yeah, it was, and somebody, and I was telling David this. I don't know if you were listening, and when we were talking to him, but somebody had taken a like kind of an overhead shot of the jury. I don't know how that happened. I don't know if somebody got access to like the video and just like snapped a still or a screen grab of it, and they posted it. And I was kind of looking at the demographics of it, and I mean, do you think that without giving any like information, what would you say was the average age of the jurors, if you had to
Mm,
guess?
I would say the average age was probably 40.
Yeah, yeah,
I think the youngest was 28.
So now you live in a small town. So during jury questioning, how many people I understand everybody knew and recognized the defendant. So let's just focus on the plaintiffs. Were there many jurors who knew the plaintiffs, and did any of them end up on the jury?
Um, I think everyone had seen him at some point, either at one of their kids' events or something. But and everyone, at least knew who a couple of the cops were. But I think in the whole process, I only heard one person that didn't have a clue who Afroman was, like didn't even know the songs.
Right. No, I get Afroman, but I'm just wondering now just about the seven law enforcement people. Did many of them know? Did a lot of the potential jurors know them? And did anyone who knew them ended up on the jury?
Well, yeah, not new. Like I said, I told them I knew who three of them were, but had never had conversations with them. But it's just small town, you recognize whoever was your kid's resource officer at school, or, and you know their name, but you don't know them.
yeah. Right. I mean, you recognize them by sight, but like you don't know them personally.
Yes.
So
And that was
leading
against everybody.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, so leading up to trial, was there a lot of publicity about the case leading up to it, like on the local news and in the paper, or not really?
I don't know. I don't even look at a newspaper. I try to stay away from news, and I didn't even get on social media for 8 months straight. And then still I've only the most social media I have took in has been the last couple of days.
I believe it.
Yeah, so I don't know about that.
Yeah, I mean, I was curious about that because it's like that's one of the things when you have some cases are high publicity leading into trial, and some become high publicity once the trial starts. I was curious about that because of Afroman's kind of status as a well-known rapper. I thought maybe going in that it might have been a bigger story locally, but like I mean, you're the perfect juror. You really want a juror in there that doesn't really have any kind of bias one way or another, and you're going in just to apply the law and the facts, and you come up with your verdict. Um, in terms of the First Amendment type issues, I mean, collectively as a jury, did you understand how important this particular issue was? Like, not just in the trial, but kind of moving forward for the country?
not moving forward for the country or anything. I guess we just, oh, I can only speak for myself, just felt like it was important to this case, but not, I didn't have any idea that we would be sending a message to anybody, to anyone, like with our decision or anything.
Right.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, you did though. I mean, now, right? I mean, it was a big win for free speech. It was huge. I mean, you guys, it's like David was saying, you guys kind of started carving out lines of like how far you can go in terms of, whether it be criticism, whether it be satire, in terms of, because comedians have always done that. You
Yeah.
go all the way back, and comedians have always been critical of politicians, and it's protected. It's protected speech, and we have to protect it. So I mean, you guys were really in there as champions of free speech, and I mean, I'm so thankful that y'all came up with the right verdict here, because I mean, in terms of you had come back the other way, it might have set us back as a country. I mean, there was a lot that was weighing on this verdict. So to kind of hear that you guys were just focusing on the micro level is amazing.
We didn't know. We didn't know that it was such a big deal. The courtroom wasn't packed. There was only a few people outside. I mean, if it was going to be this big of a deal, I guess I would have expected more people, more news agencies or whatever. I mean, it sure didn't seem like that when we were in there.
So you heard us talk a lot with David about how the judge seemed to treat him, some of the comments that the judge made. And obviously I'm not expecting you to speak for the jury, but from your own perspective, did that make you feel like the judge was against the defense? Did it make your eyebrows go up?
I mean, there was definitely some tense moments, but as jurors, we just stayed focused on the facts and the evidence and the judge's instructions. But I mean, and also none of us knew how court was supposed to work. Is the judge supposed to like keep telling you things throughout? I mean, I didn't know how bad that was until afterwards. And then I saw a lot of TikTok lawyers and stuff talking about how messed up they thought it was or whatever. But
So let me ask you, because we as lawyers, we always worry that when a judge chastises us in front of the jury, when a judge tells the jury basically this lawyer is doing it wrong, that the jury is just going to be like, well, this lawyer must really be screwing up because this judge keeps saying something. And on the flip side, a lot of people say, well, jurors can sense that when a judge is being a little bit too harsh with one side or the other. For
Absolutely.
you, which way did you take it?
hang on. I mean, I don't want to say, I don't want to bash a judge or anything, but I mean, it did seem like he was like he had something against, the defendants or something, but I mean, it didn't factor into our decisions, I mean,
Right, no, I understand it, that it wasn't part of your thought process with deliberations, but just the way you perceived it in general in the moment that it was happening.
yeah, well, it was one of those things where you could just feel it. It felt uncomfortable.
Yeah.
That's the way I would describe it. Is just felt a little tense, just a little bit uncomfortable. But like I said, again, we didn't know how this was supposed to work, how a judge was supposed to act, or
Right.
so.
Yeah,
He-
which makes total sense, because you're not going to know, like as a lay person, if you're not an attorney, what's improper for a judge to be doing, and whether,
Yeah.
so it's like, yeah, I understand that part of it. In terms of when you guys get back into deliberations, did you, so you select a four-person, right? Did you guys kind of vote on who would be the four-person?
Yeah.
And in terms of the deliberations, did you guys do like what we call a straw poll, where you kind of go say, well, where's everybody at, like, coming in? Because
Yes.
you guys weren't talking, right? Like during the trial, that's like,
No.
you can't. So you guys did your straw poll, and where was it initially?
What do you mean? Where was what?
Well,
Where,
when
where
you
where were you guys in terms of whether you're going to find them liable, like, as to each count? I guess what I'm getting at was there a split? Like, did you guys have to, like, really deliberate? Did some people have to be
We
talked into certain things, or how did that deliberation go?
No, it was everyone did a good job of playing devil's advocate, and uh, we just even the ones that we didn't think for sure right off, just from everything we could remember without looking at our notes or anything, there were, I think four that but we still went over our notes. Everyone read their notes, and we went through every piece of evidence, and the law was laying in front of us, and we just checked off everything as we went.
So let's start with the ones that you could that were more easily decided as far as not liable. Was How did you guys think of, what was the um the feeling on the theft, on the, oh, they stole my money counts?
Mm,
Because, well, part of the instruction says that in order for it to be defamation or false light, that that Afroman would have had to have, known that it was false, or just ignored the falsity of it. And was that easy under these facts to say, well, we think that it was reasonable for him to think that the police, under the facts presented, stole his money.
yeah, we thought it was reasonable. I mean, he was missing money, I mean, and I don't know. We just definitely thought it was reasonable, that the evidence showed that it was reasonable that he would have thought that. I mean, two out of the three piles was miscounted or something. Yeah, I believe
So
two out.
were you guys unanimous in
Oh,
discarding
yes.
those counts?
Yes.
And that was a fairly,
Only one that gave us that, we had to discuss the most was Lisa.
and that was that in relation to the Lick 'em Low video or something else?
Yeah, the video.
And with that, you heard, real consequences. She got real emotional. Did that create sympathy for the plaintiffs? And at the end of the day, did the legal standard ultimately override any emotional pull?
We definitely had a lot of sympathy, but we left that out and we followed the law and the evidence. But yeah, I mean, yeah, we had sympathy. We're human, I mean, I don't like to see someone upset. I don't like for people's kids to be upset. Like, nobody likes that. But again, all we had was the evidence and the law to follow in front of us, and we kept that out of it.
So with the like with the let's go with the Lick 'em Low Lisa video. Was basically where you guys landed, that no reasonable person would have accepted that as factual, given, like,
Yes. Yes. That there's a lot worse things on Saturday Night Live and South Park, and you know.
Yeah, and you and I discussed that because I was saying it just kept making me think of the South Park skit where you've got our president with laying in bed with the devil. They're talking about his
With
penis
a micro
size.
penis.
Yeah, and it's like, well, everyone knows that that's satire. And is that what you guys felt with that video? That as bad as it was clearly satire.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
That is where we were on that. And
Was there another? So on that, were you guys unanimous?
no, Lisa's we had 6 out of 8, but if we would have had to have had 8, I'm confident those other 2 would have, with more discussion, would have been on board.
Could have swayed him. So we had a question in chat that I thought was pretty interesting because it was such a bizarre moment in the trial. Crystal DeSaro had asked, how did you guys feel, the jurors feel, when the plaintiff's attorney said that, you were basically hand selected by God to be the jurors? Was that like something that you guys discussed back there, or like what, when you heard him say
Well,
that?
let's not ask what if they discussed it back there. Let's just ask how it affected her. Not, and we understand that we don't mean in deliberations, but
Right.
just even hearing him say words like that, did you do a second, like a double look?
Yeah. I thought it was, I mean, like I said, I don't know how things work, but it was just one of those things that felt odd.
Well, I mean, I could tell you God doesn't select juries in this country. That's usually the lawyer. So, yeah, it was just such a strange thing. Because I mean, there's a separation of church and state for a reason.
Yeah.
Really kind of keep that stuff out. You keep the religion side out of the courts, even though, if you go back fundamentally, there's obviously a lot of intertwined in terms of the morality of the law as it exists, but that's a long and boring conversation that we won't have right now. I keep getting a lot of questions from one of our other law tube friends, Uncivil Law, and they're all revolving around pound cake. Did the jury send out a note demanding pound cake? That's one of the burning questions.
That's what we had for dinner.
And will you ever look at a pound cake the same?
No.
Did
I've
you?
never been interested in lemon pound cake, but I've saw so many beautiful lemon pound cakes on TikTok. I'm reconsidering. I may try it.
So did you guys? I can't remember. The pound cake video was definitely shown in court, right?
Yes.
Did you notice that he was looking at the pound cake?
Yes.
He was definitely eyeballing the pound cake. He definitely wanted to nibble on the pound cake, which I think
I don't blame him. It looked tasty.
it did look tasty, and I bet you it was. I bet you it was moist and
Yes.
delicious.
So you mentioned times where you felt like you wanted to go into a hole, but what tell us some times where you had to fight back laughing, if that ever happened. I mean, there was a lot of funny stuff out there.
There was a lot of funny stuff, but I can tell you in the moment, it was not funny. The time that we all laughed was when Mr. Osborne was questioning one of the guys, and he said something wrong, and the cop says, Mr. Walters does sleep with his wife, but Joe Foreman doesn't, or something like that. Everybody laughed during that moment. There was a couple times that like everyone laughed, and the judge didn't seem to have a problem with it. But no, in the moment, I didn't have any problem not laughing.
Okay,
I find that to be incredible.
I know.
I would have been. Even if
what everyone says,
I would have been just laughing, and it was such a crazy case because of the facts and just everything that was involved with the lyrics and the videos. It would have been a really, really hard trial to kind of maintain decorum, but I mean, that's a credit to you. I mean, and all the jurors that you took it seriously, and as funny as some of the stuff, because like, if you're sitting here not having been a juror and you're looking at it on social media, it's hysterical. You know,
Yeah, I get that.
but I mean, it really is a credit to you guys for taking your duty seriously and kind of stifling what would ostensibly be considered to be hilarious, and just kind of focusing on what really mattered, which was the law and the facts.
You
And
know, in retrospect, it's kind of funny how serious we were, like everyone's imagining the jury like not being able to contain themselves. And one of the little girls that was in the courtroom, she told people that we just looked like a bunch of robots.
yeah, I mean, it's kind of, but I think that's the weight of the courtroom. You know what I mean? Like the trappings of the court. Like when you get in there, like what I've found is that, like, that's why I was asking early on, if you were kind of like not looking forward to being a juror just because it kind of interrupts your daily flow, and you don't know how long you're going to be stuck in there, and you got better stuff to do and all those things. But then when you get in there and you kind of just feel the weight of the courtroom, and that it's serious business and there's serious business at hand, and that kind of takes over for you, and
Yes.
you kind of realize. But like one
A lot
question
of
I have,
a lot of responsibility and a lot of pressure to get things right.
yes. And to that end, I always want to ask jurors this question. Did you find in this particular case, were the jury instructions helpful, like in general, or do you find them to be confusing? I always want to ask that of jurors because sometimes they're hard to understand even as lawyers, but as jurors, did you guys find the jury instructions were pretty helpful?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like everything was explained to us pretty well.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
So you mentioned earlier that you guys very easily on most of the plaintiffs were able to come to a unanimous verdict that there was no liability. And you said that the hardest one was Lisa's. And I'm assuming that was um because of that emotional aspect of it and seeing her emotion. Is that something that went into making it harder to say, but the law is here and this is where we're gonna land?
I don't know, maybe subconsciously, sympathy played a role in, that aspect of it. But ultimately, we had to put all of that aside and just go on, our evidence and the law.
Yeah.
So which was was there another one that was not unanimous and that was harder to come to than the first few that you guys very easily found no liability?
No, no. We discussed Newland more than we did and Lisa more, than the other ones. But like I said, we still, before we just said, no, not liable, we went through every piece of evidence and each one of us read our notes and we had a discussion.
That's great. I mean,
And
that's what I call doing the work, That's what deliberations are supposed to be, like you go through the evidence, you have the conversations. Cause and as far as like, was there a pivotal question for you guys back there, like whether or not like statements are false, or whether Afroman had the right to say them, or was it something else? Was there like one kind of question that you guys kind of like kept falling into in terms of like, we need to answer this question in order to reach a verdict one way or another?
One of the big things was no one had missed out on promotions, and that they all said that they could still have peaceful meals out with their families. Um, I remember those two were like,
And we talked about this offline a little bit, and you had said that a lot of it came down to the legal standard on um on
Alice.
how, right, on malice, and on whether a reasonable person would have, given that it was a video, or for the video, given that it was a video. And I think it was for Brian Newland, given the actual wording of the post, like he's doing this to kids right in the bright of day, right out in front of people, that you're saying that clearly, like, a reasonable person's not going to think he's actually doing that in front of people, right in the
None of
light of
us
day,
actually believed he was doing any of that.
or that a reasonable person would think
Yeah.
that that was.
Yeah, we felt like we were reasonable people, and we didn't believe that stuff about Brian. We just,
Could tell that it was somebody
yeah,
being sarcastic and just, popping
yes.
off.
Yeah.
Yep. Well, yep.
Yeah. I mean, you guys did great work. It's always great to hear, because it's pretty rare to hear from jurors, to be honest with you. And I understand why, especially if it's a high publicity case, people are nervous about talking about it publicly because you're worried. But I mean, now that it's done and over with, are you seeing, because you've gotten on social media in the past few days, are you seeing just how much of an impact that this thing had? Because look, in terms of whether it's binding or not, because it's not appellate law, like it won't be cited, but in terms of setting a precedent in a case, in terms of what is allowable to be said by comedians or artists, do you guys, are you feeling that now? Are you feeling like how important what you did really was?
Not really. I mean, it's what everybody says, but I don't feel like, I don't feel any type of way about it.
And
I
so let me ask you,
You should.
yeah, let me ask you this, because it wasn't part of the case, so it doesn't impede like your deliberations, so you don't have to worry about anything like that. But hearing what we just heard when we talked to David about what they, whoop, I'm sorry, I pressed a button. Oh, okay, there we are. About what they police relied on to get inside that house. Is that shocking to you?
Yes, very shocking. The kidnapping thing is what was the most shocking, and I just can't believe that one person could tell you something about someone and you could go kick their door down. That's terrifying.
Yeah, it really is.
And now, because you guys, I don't think you guys saw all of the body cam video at trial. Like, I don't think you guys saw, like now that you know what David just explained to us about what they said, and the fact that there was no basement. I mean, you guys didn't see the body cam where they're looking for hidden compartments behind doors and stuff like that. That wasn't part of the trial, right?
No, no.
So, and
I
I don't
have
know
to see
if
that
you had
even afterwards.
a chance to look at them afterwards, but at least you heard me describing, like, okay, they're being told that there's cages and women being held and defecating in buckets in a basement that doesn't exist. And they spent, I mean, so much time looking for these in every room, looking for a hidden compartment that didn't exist.
It's a shame. I mean, I had no idea that you could get a warrant on someone, a search warrant on someone that easy. And now you guys, is that normal?
No.
No.
No, if you have a confidential source, you're supposed to get some sort of corroboration. I mean, you've got somebody trying to get themselves out of trouble, that's supposed to be taken with a grain of salt. And what we heard David describe is like the witness changed her statement before they even went in front of the judge and said, "Well, I stole it." But you would think that when you walk in and there is no basement, and no matter how hard you try to take the man's walls apart, there's not a hidden compartment. You should start to say, "I'm so sorry, sir. we've gotten some very bad information, instead of they just kept digging in and trying to find that damn hidden compartment. You know, it's
I'm gonna have to go watch that. I didn't know they were looking for a secret compartment.
I mean, they were tearing the wall apart, like the actual, like, what do you call that kind of paneling? The
Drywall.
No, but there's like certain paneling he had like in his closet that they tried to rip off and they tried to pull apart. It's like tap on a wall. It's not a hidden compartment. It's a wall, for God's sakes.
Yeah.
It was
That's like I said, that's scary that it's like, is there no checks and balances for judges? And are there no checks and balances for judges? I mean, what do you do when you got people signing search warrants like that? I mean, is there any way to?
Actually, I forgot to ask David when we had him if Afroman had thought about a 1983 claim, because it was just so outrageous. Like no reasonable judge should have signed that, and no reasonable officer should have relied on that. They should have known there was not enough. And I'm kind of like, it's just ridiculous that somebody can just say there's no reports of people being kidnapped. There's no reports of a woman that says I was held in a basement somewhere, I don't know where. And you're just taking the word of somebody like talking out of school and going to get. Oh, okay. He did bring a 19.
Yeah, Kurt says he brought a 1983 claim.
That's shocking that it was dismissed. That's shocking on civil law. Thanks for.
One informant told him something, that would be one thing, but you would think that more informants would have had to have told them that, you know,
or at least some corroborating report of a woman who was like, I was held somewhere.
Yeah.
Right. Anything.
Yeah.
A missing child, like a missing person that they're looking for. It's like they swatted him, but with a warrant.
Right. It is like they swatted him essentially they did swat him, basically. Well, and let me ask you this, like, so how much of that did you guys take into consideration? So let me put it this way. If that hadn't happened, right? So if the illegal raid hadn't happened, and Foreman had just put these cops on blast for no apparent reason, do you think that you would have landed in the same place? Or was it part of the outrage of what had happened to him? Did that play a part, do you think, even maybe subconsciously?
She followed the law, they said, Ben.
I don't think so. Like, the judge told us that, public officials have to take a lot more than a private citizen.
Yep.
So we didn't take that into consideration. We didn't even discuss that anything about the raid.
Good. Then you followed the law.
Yeah, we did follow the law.
You did good. You did good. Yeah, it's very promising to hear from jurors. Like, so I'm really thankful that you came on with us, because like this is the stuff we really don't get to ask all that often. You know what I mean? Because it's hard, because we don't want to bother jurors either. It doesn't matter where you live. It's, people went out of their way to do this duty, and they did it, and they probably don't want to get into it. For various reasons. So it's like, it's rare that we get to talk to a juror and kind of find out, how you guys operate. I've never been lucky enough, and I think probably because of my profession, to be a juror. I'd love to be a juror, because I think it would be really interesting. Because you just kind of get sucked into the case no matter what it is, and
yeah, I can see that.
Yeah. Yeah. So I'm proud of you. You did good work.
You did. And defamation requires a false statement, obviously presented as fact, not just something that could be a fact, but the way you presented it. When you heard Afroman sing that he had sex with one of the officer's wives, was there any thought with you about whether a listener could actually take that as a factual claim, or was it immediately obvious, to the jurors that was satire?
it was just immediately that it was satire.
Yeah.
I
Did
mean,
it help that the cop said, "I don't know if it was true or not"?
yes, that did come up.
But at the end of the day, you guys thought it was satire anyway.
Yes. Yes. Even though we thought it was satire, we still laid everything out according to the law that was laying in front of us, like.
Right, and the way it was presented wasn't
Yes.
presented as it wouldn't be you had the 2 things going to you, wasn't the manner in which it was presented in that kind of video is not something that someone would think he's trying to present as a fact, and it wasn't something a reasonable person would take as fact.
Yeah. Yes. I
And
mean,
then he himself couldn't say it wasn't a fact.
exactly. That was one of the most memorable parts to me of the whole trial.
And how did you feel when the defense called, I forget which witness's wife it was, and she contradicted everything he said on the stand?
Her testimony was powerful.
But still, at the end of the day, it rested for you, I'm assuming, on the fact that whether it would be reasonable to take as fact and whether it was
Yeah, she
presented
said
as
she
a fact.
didn't have to tell her kids, that this stuff was fake. I mean, even teenagers
Right.
knew that this was it was a joke, like it wasn't.
Do you remember kind of thinking, like, what in the hell? He got up here and he told us this is why his marriage fell apart, and this is they had to do all these things, and his ex-wife just literally contradicted everything he testified to in front of you as
Yeah,
true.
that's why we didn't have to have a lot of discussion about him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, how
His
did you feel getting contacted by? Tell us about the call that you got from the plaintiff's lawyer.
I was shocked. Again, I don't know how things work, but I didn't have any idea what he may want, I really didn't.
How did he get a hold of you?
He looked at my emergency contact number and called it, and it was my husband, and my husband didn't give him my number. He just said, "I'll tell her you called, and if she wants, she'll call you back." So I called him back, and he just wanted to know what went wrong, that he felt like they had a really strong case and a really good jury. And I just told him that I had a lot of thoughts running through my head, a lot of adrenaline. I said, I've got a lot of adrenaline running through me right now. I cannot think. I said, I will, whenever I'm able to calm down, I will jot some things down and call you back. And then I didn't call him back because I talked to a couple other jurors and they'd got phone calls too. And we were just like, what on earth?
Yeah. It's
I mean, he's saying to you what went wrong, as though implying that you guys did something wrong.
Yes. Like, I don't know. I didn't appreciate it. It felt like,
invasive.
yeah, it was
Yeah.
invasive and almost like an attack or something, like he didn't appreciate what we had done, I mean,
Right. And did the other jurors that
it's our fault somehow, and not his for
Bringing a shitty case.
even a shitty, yeah, and not proving anything. I mean,
Yeah.
we did based on evidence by the law, and that was our decision. I mean, we didn't do anything wrong, like he was sort of implying, that we got it wrong somehow,
Yeah.
Right. And is that the same kind of gist of what he was saying to the other jurors that you're aware of, that he was kind of calling it wrong or
I don't know about that. I don't know. I just know they didn't, the two that I know of didn't talk to him And they just kind of felt the same thing, like, what on earth is he calling for?
Yeah, well, I'm here to tell you, you have zero obligation to talk to him. Zero. You don't have,
Yeah.
like, man, don't call me again, and just hang up. It's that simple. You have no obligation to talk to him, no obligation to answer any questions that he may have for you. You don't have any obligation to answer the call.
We can watch the trial and see what he done wrong. We don't need to tell him.
Right.
Yeah. And so in terms of, I've had a few people ask in chat, like with the amount of damages that they were asking for, were you guys kind of shocked about the
Yeah.
amount?
We were shocked.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes. We didn't have any idea. Like I said, we didn't know how big any of this was. And then when he came up with those numbers, I mean, I think I'm not going to speak for everybody, but I know I was shocked.
Yeah. It's a lot of dough.
Yeah, a lot. Yeah, it's a lot.
Yeah. No question about it. No question about it.
And how did the judge, did he thank you guys? How did he make you feel? How did you feel after the verdict was read in court?
We didn't know what to do. He didn't dismiss anyone. Everyone was just standing around looking at each other, shot, just like, what is going on? And he went into his chambers and then came back out and dismissed court. But we went into the jury room and he didn't thank the jurors, in front of everyone, but he did come back.
Oh, you cut out.
Uh-oh. We lost her.
Yeah, maybe it'll come back. She refreshes her screen or something.
Yeah. Maybe she's not on her. She could be on her phone, I suppose. Maybe.
No, she's on a computer. We talked about it
she
because she did try like some altering a software that would alter her audio, and she just thought it was too difficult to work through. You guys, if assuming Anonymous is able to get back, and Anonymous, if you can hear us, we can
I can kick her and then you can come
kick you
back.
so that you can follow the link and come back.
Oh, there she good. She dropped off. She'll come back in. Yeah, if you guys in chat have any questions, I've been trying to pick through. If you guys have anything that you want us to ask, and if she's at liberty to discuss it, we'll happily ask the questions. Because it's rare. It really is pretty rare to have a juror come on and be willing to hang and ask some questions and answer the questions, and it's fun. It's a unique experience for Allie and I too.
Yeah, and look, at the end of the day, she says that they were focused on the law, and the law
Yep.
says it has to be fit. It has to be false, and they could not prove that like the they stole my money stuff. I think that was the only thing that was presented as a fact because he held it up at music videos, and the way he said it was like, yeah, they stole my money. So I don't think that was perceived as satire. But she said, no, like you have to prove motive and that he knew it was false or ignored the falsity. And the jury found that it was very reasonable under those circumstances for him to think they stole their money. She's not so sure they didn't steal the money.
Yeah.
He's still not sure they didn't steal his money. He still thinks that whatever that officer said in court where he ran the, I listened to the video and the way he counted it was, it was just a miscount. That doesn't mean he's got to accept that. Like,
Yeah.
no, it
No,
seems shady as shit.
And all eyes had said, I'm stunned that the attorney talking about plaintiffs' counsel thought that they had a strong case. In what world was that a strong case? And that's facts. Like when I was bringing up the concept of whether or not that plaintiff's attorney had taken the case on a contingency basis, which means that you're fronting the costs as the lawyer. So filing costs, all the costs for litigation, including the deps, all the things that David was talking about that they had to, lay out the money on the front end with the hope that you're going to recoup your costs and recover in terms of a verdict. If they took that case, that's on that lawyer. That's on Bob for having such a horrible misread of, number one, the law and how the law would apply to those facts. It's like, you have to wonder if, because it is small town, and I don't know what the racial breakdown is in terms of that area in Ohio. But you could see a plaintiff's attorney saying, "Oh, well, here's this guy out here talking shit about our cops. It's going to be a no-brainer." You know what I mean? And not even necessarily applying the law, which was his first major mistake. And thinking that there was a case that he could recover on, because that's part of that gig. Being a plaintiff's attorney is you have to evaluate the strength of your claims. And the next thing is you have to make sure that you're suing somebody with money, because to sue somebody that has no pockets, that doesn't have any money, the judgment's not worth the paper it's written on, So, and I think that Foreman probably had some kind of cash. Did he have $4 million? I have no clue. But the bigger whiff was on just the application of the law to the facts. And if he would have done anything in terms of,
in my estimation, the only thing presented in a manner in which a reasonable person would say, "Oh, this is a fact someone's telling me," because the video about having sex with his girlfriend, it's a music video with like cartoon dogs. Like, no one thinks that is supposed to be taken as factual. Okay, it was the theft, and to me, I guess actually that is it, because the language, as the juror said, as Anonymous pointed out, the language in the post about Newlander, about him being a pedophile, is that he's walking around, watch out, in the broad daylight, right in front of your face, he's going to do these things. Well, people will be like, well, clearly not. Clearly he's not doing that in front of people's faces. Like, the wording of it was so outrageous that it's not being portrayed as a fact. And the jury found that a reasonable person wouldn't think that was a portrayal of fact. And then, the plaintiff with the wife, they could find on the law, right, that it wasn't portrayed as a fact, given it was in this music video and the way it was worded and all of that, and that a reasonable person wouldn't take it in the way it was delivered, the way it was portrayed as fact. But also, the damn guy couldn't say it was, "Oh, no, I know for a fact my wife did not sleep with the Afroman." He said, I don't know. That could be a fact.
Yeah.
He was trying to make his own case, and he hurt his own case.
Did you text her to make sure that, like, the Barney Fifes of that county didn't come knocking on her door? Hello, it's us. It's us. We're here. We're here. Yeah, I see. Slim and Bones had said, I still want to get a lemon pound cake t-shirt. I'm sure that Afroman has a website that has lemon pound cake t-shirts. If not, he's really, really whiffing, because I think those would be, you got to strike while the iron's hot in this type of situation. So I'd be shocked.
All right, she's going to come back. Her computer died.
Aha.
So,
I knew it was something.
But hopefully you guys have some questions in there that we can ask her when she comes back. If not, we'll just thank her, I guess.
Yeah, because we're pretty much questioned out. I've found it to be a real delight to be able to talk to her. It's great. The whole thing has been great. It was great to have David on. Just really, really fortunate that they went to bat on this case. And he's like, relatively speaking, in terms of like practice years, he's kind of a young attorney, and he did a great job, and he's learned it in a lot of different ways. He's got multiple degrees and decided to get into the law, and took on a pretty big First Amendment case, and he did great work.
All right, she's powered up. She's about to be back.
Woo-wee! Powered up. All right. While we have you, if you're new to the channel, please give us a like,
We have a bunch of new members. I'm going to say all their names. We got anonymous juror is back. And then I'll
and
go
she's
through.
back.
Sorry about that.
No
Oh,
worries.
I'm married to a woman whose shit dies on me constantly. So I'm like, Allie's the queen of dying devices. That is a fact. That is an absolute fact.
So Pammy MC asks, and I'm going to preface this because I know that this didn't come into your deliberations. So I'm just going to ask you in retrospect, now that it's all over and you're looking back, although it did not come into deliberations, do you think that this was a total money grab? You know, that was the driving force with these plaintiffs from a semi-famous rapper?
I mean, it's crossed my mind. I honestly think maybe they got some bad advice from that lawyer. You know, I don't think lawyer should have ever put him through this.
Yeah, I think the money grab was more from the lawyer's perspective. Like
That's
probably,
my theory.
yeah, I mean, they probably came in and, you know, they're cops. They don't necessarily know how the law operates in terms of civil suits, and you know, they're going to rely on.
And maybe he was hoping for notoriety, which he
Yeah,
got in a bad way.
He's got a defendant with a name, a defendant with a, you know, pretty well established career. He's assuming there's going to be money, and you know, he took a swing and he whiffed hard.
Just saying says, tell her she made the Southern Ohio proud.
Indeed. Look at that. Look at that.
So is there anything else you want to tell us about? And again, it can be things that you're now thinking, you know, that you didn't know in deliberations or weren't part of your deliberations, but you know, anything else that you're thinking all this?
Just in general, I think there needs to be more juries deciding things instead of judges.
Yeah. Well, I'm here to tell you, like, every time I start to feel disheartened by the way that a jury comes back on a particular case, you know, there's always a case like yours where it brings me back up to, you know, the jury system's the best system in the world. And, you know, when people take the job seriously and do it the way that you guys did it, you know, it really makes me feel fortunate that, you know, this is the system we have, because it fluctuates with me. You know what I mean? Sometimes I'll be disappointed and I'll be like, it doesn't seem like the jury did the work, but it's clear that you guys did the work and you followed the law, which is what the job is, you know?
Yeah. So Carly Esti, or maybe it's Carl Steelman, whichever, says where we left off was, what did the judge say to them? That's what cut out. So once he said stuff to you, what did he say?
He come back and told us thanks, and he wanted to know what we got so hung up on. And one of the jurors told him it was the actual malice, you know, and he wanted to know if he explained everything good enough. And we told him yes. And one of the jurors asked, do you think these songs and videos will stop now? And he said, look at him out there, his big ego, he's loving this and it'll never stop. Or he basically, we knew he didn't like him after that.
So you're telling me that the judge was asking you also kind of what went wrong?
Yeah.
Wow.
I can't. He should have never asked you guys what you got hung up on. I'm shocked.
All of that's inappropriate. A judge should just be thanking you for your service and, you know, your dedication to the case and following the rules, and like, that's it. You know, like, starting to grill you guys and to kind of make that statement about the defendant, you know, talking about his ego. Look at him out there. I mean, that is
Yeah.
like, and like, that is not, and David told us that is not a judge from your county, so that was
Yeah.
the dude they brought in. Wow, that's more craziness.
Nexus Lexus, is that are you saying that it actually has been refiled?
Sounds like maybe Kurt refiled it. Maybe Kurt on civil law refiled it. You didn't read this one from
I mean, I didn't think it was something that Anonymous needed to comment on, but you can read it out loud.
Yeah, so it's my tinfoil theory is that one cop's wife is 100% cheating on him with somebody and he knows it, but can't leave her because he will lose everything in the divorce. Do you want to go there? Huge red flag. I mean,
Yeah, and KC Paralegal said, and I don't know if you saw this, but I mentioned it while you were backstage, that this Adams County, Colorado had to put out their own social media post. And KC Paralegal says, I live in Adams County, Colorado, and paralegal for a judge. I saw that video during the trial and I was dying. Work the next day was extremely fun. Did you see that, Anonymous?
My husband saw it. He told me
they were sending them pound cakes, right? They were getting tons and tons.
My understanding was I thought it was hate mail, but I don't know.
Really? I thought they were getting pound cakes.
And I guess I don't know if David's still back there, but I'm wondering if he is as shocked as we are that the judge is asking them what they got hung up on. I cannot believe that.
He said he was asking for himself so that he knew in future, whether he needed to explain things better.
But he's assuming that you guys got it wrong because he misexplained it. It seems
okay. I don't know. Like I said, I don't know how any of this is supposed to work.
Well, it's not supposed to, you did nothing wrong.
No, right. You did nothing wrong. I'm just like, it just sounds like he was straight up. What did you get hung up on? And was it because I didn't explain things right? And it left you with the feeling that he also felt you guys didn't get it right.
Yeah.
Accurate? Wow.
Man, not cool.
Not cool.
Not cool. That's well, in the last question I have for you, in terms of like when you do deliver a verdict like that and it's substantial because that guy who was sitting in the defendant's chair, they were trying to squeeze him for $4 million, and obviously I think he was emotional. Did you guys see his reaction to the verdict?
No, I didn't see any of that. I didn't see any of that until after we'd left, and I saw clips of tears streaming down his face, and he got emotional twice when he was out talking to the news.
So I hope that made you feel good for whatever the judge may have made you feel. I hope you felt like, I hope you felt the impact.
Well, we looked up his net worth, and oh my goodness, I mean, that would have just completely destroyed his life. He wouldn't even been able to feed his family.
Oh yeah. It would have been like everything, house gone, I mean, it would have been, they would have liquidated him.
Well, because of that amount, we just assumed, I assumed that his net worth was way more than, what they asked for. But then, like I said, after I got home and looked it up, that's when I was really shocked by it,
Oh, we have another juror in here in chat. Where is she?
Oh, she's funny as hell.
So Temp for Privacy says he asked us if there were any parts of the jury instructions that we had trouble understanding, and I do not remember him saying anything more than that or anything about us getting it wrong. You don't Temp for Privacy.
He didn't say we got it wrong.
You didn't remember him saying what were you hung up on?
Yeah, he said what we got hung up on.
Yeah, so I mean that's Bob and I inferring that by using the words what did you get hung up on, and didn't I explain it right? If you had trouble understanding the instructions, that's definitely
he said it in a more professional way, or a nice tone. I mean, it didn't come across as anything accusatory or nothing,
I know, but we can read between the lines.
Oh well.
Yeah. I mean, the bottom line is typically judges just thank the jurors for their service and, and then they send them off on their way, but I mean, who knows? Who
He
knows? I
wasn't
mean,
mean with us back there or anything. I mean,
no, I'm sure he wasn't. He was probably just, and he may have meant you guys took a while in deliberation, like I'm just curious, like what was the main thing that you guys were kind of like stuck on, you know what I mean? Because how long did the verdict take? I can't even remember.
Not that long.
6 hours, I think.
I mean, that's a fair amount of deliberation.
Oh
It's a
yeah, that
Yeah,
is a long time.
like I
Yeah.
said, we went through everything. We
Yeah.
went through everything and discussed everything and our notes and every piece of evidence that was out there. So, like I said, even on some of them that we didn't need to deliberate on a while, we still read all of our notes and did everything thoroughly.
Well, I think you guys did amazing work, and
Yeah.
I'm grateful to all of you, and that includes the one in chat and you. You guys you did the work, and in my estimation, you came up with the right verdict on all counts. So well done, well done. And America thanks you, and our freedom of speech thanks you, because you really,
We
even
were
if it
just
was,
serving our role and following the law.
you did it. You did it. You did great. We're proud
So
of
is
you.
there anything else you want to say about the trial, about what you think after the trial?
I just hope everybody can move on and everybody gets a little bit of peace in their lives. I just hope the best for all of them, all involved.
Yeah, and we hope the best for you. And you did great work. And like I said, it'll be a story that you'll tell for a long time. It's one of those. It's one of those life experiences that you'll talk about for the rest of your days. Like
Yeah. Something good
so.
to teach grandkids.
Yeah, 100%. Well, we're very thankful to you for joining us and sharing your experience with us, because it was an important case, and you guys did wonderful work back there, and we're thankful as citizens for your service. So thank you for that.
You're
Yep.
welcome. And if anybody else is like, don't message me for interviews. I'm not talking to anybody else. I only did this because it was a friend of a family or, friend of a friend. And so I won't be talking to anybody
We got
else.
lucky. We got lucky.
We got
on
lucky, and
everybody.
we appreciate you, and we can see that you guys, what your focus was on the law, and like you said, you felt sympathy for, especially Lick'em Low Lisa. I feel bad calling her.
You
But that you,
probably just call her Lisa at this point.
Lisa, yeah, but you had to follow the law, and you didn't think that, and I agree. I can't look at that video and think that someone's trying to tell me the truth,
Oh
and I'm
gosh.
supposed to accept it as true.
No.
So, you guys,
He's a
you
reasonable
did the
person.
hard work.
You
All
did.
right.
We're proud of you.
Thank you.
All
Talk to
right.
you later. Bye-bye.
Thanks. Bye.
So I just don't leave. I'm going to say welcome to Amy Boston, Loopy Lass, Weekend Court with Jordy, Legally Blonde, Muzz Bear.
Muzzy Bear.
And welcome to all of you, all family hugs. And
Aw.
we want to thank Char Mick for gifting 5 memberships. That was very thoughtful.
Yes.
Nick, we're glad to have you in here with us. We also got Debbie, who's a new member. History, thank you for gifting a membership. And Joanne, so family hugs to both of you guys.
Indeed.
And thanks for your continued support, Laxady, member for 20 months. We appreciate it. And then I think I got everybody. Nick came back and said, Normandy, Normads, Northmen, Scandinavia.
Normandy.
Normandy.
All right. Well, it's been a long day for the Matas over here with Kelsey's trial, and then these amazing interviews, which we hope you enjoyed. If you did, share it with your friends, share it with your neighbors, give us a like, give us a subscribe. If you really love us, become a member. We love it. If you're on Replay Crew, make sure you leave a comment. Let's get it out in the algo. We love you guys so much. Mods, thank you for all your hard work today. We really appreciate it. We know that you suffer with us through these long days, and you guys are amazing. We get the best.
Thank you, David. Thank you, Anonymous.
Yep. Thank you. And to you guys, to our beautiful community, we love you so very much, because without you, I would just be an old man
Sitting around talking to his wife.
Boo.